Hello guys, welcome to this course on Modern Indian History by Nitty Gritty. Before we begin, here are a few instructions. This course is designed to give you a clear understanding of history from 1857 to 1947. Any information that breaks the flow of the story is covered separately at the end of this course. And instead of taking notes, I recommend you to take screenshots to save your precious time. Now when it comes to UPSC Civil Services exam, the period between 1857 to 1947 is the most important part of modern Indian history. This part is filled with a lot of factual data. Now facts can be by-hearted, but what is expected from UPSC aspirants is a clear understanding of causes and effects in history. What happened and why did it happen? Who was involved and what were the consequences of these events? So let's start with the course to gain a good understanding of this part of history. We shall cover this course in 5 chapters. The first chapter on 1857 revolt is divided into 6 parts. The first part sets the premise. The second part tries to understand the causes of the revolt. The third part deals with the smaller outbursts preceding the revolt of 1857. The fourth part deals with the actual 1857 revolt, its spread and control. The fifth part deals with the reasons for failure of this revolt. The sixth and the final part discusses the impact of 1857 revolt on the future of our struggle for independence. So let's get started with the first part. To understand the 1857 revolt, we first need to understand the prevailing circumstances. Exactly 100 years before 1857, that is in 1757, the East India Company won the Battle of Plassey. Battle of Plassey was followed by Battle of Buxar in 1764. Battle of Buxar was an important victory for the East India Company as it marked the beginning of EIC as a territorial power. After this, in 1765, the East India Company gained the Diwani rights for the province of Bengal from the Mughal Emperor. Diwani rights were nothing but rights over revenue and civil justice. Thus, from being just a trading company, EIC became a political power after gaining these revenue rights. Thereafter, the company started spreading its wings across India. It gained real power in the northern India. Over the next century, the East India Company used various political and economic policies to exploit the Indians. A series of acts were passed. Various changes were made in the fields of education, agriculture, social reforms, etc. The intention of the EIC was to make as much profit as possible and turn India into a colonial economy. But while doing so, they created a resentment and discontent among the people in India. Indians were treated as inferiors, Indian soldiers were denied promotions and rewards, their religious sentiments were hurt. Due to all these reasons, people rose in rebellion in 1857. So let's see the causes of this rebellion in detail as they are important from the exam point of view. The causes can be classified as political causes, economic causes, administrative causes, military causes, and socio-religious causes. Let's see the political causes first. In order to gain control over the Indian territory, the British used various policies to subjugate the Indians. The first cause of discontent was Lord Wellesley's subsidiary alliance. Under subsidiary alliance, Britishers supported one Indian ruler against another. The ruler under alliance had to give up his standing army and pay for the maintenance of the British troops. So naturally, many soldiers were unemployed and unhappy with the Britishers. Now initially the rulers accepted subsidiary alliance seeking narrow interests, but eventually they too were unhappy. We have covered subsidiary alliance separately in detail, so check it out later. The next political cause was Lord Dalhousie's Doctrine of Lapse. What was Doctrine of Lapse? Doctrine of Lapse refused to recognize the right of the adopted sons of rulers to succeed as heirs without the prior approval of the British. Many rulers like Nawabs of Surat, Raja of Tanjore lost their titles under the Doctrine of Lapse. Satara, Jhansi, Nagpur were some of the princely states annexed under the Doctrine of Lapse. Nana Sahib, the adopted son of Peshwa Bajirao II, was denied of his pension. The next cause was the annexation of Awadh. The ruler of Awadh, Nawab Wajid Ali Shah, was deposed on the pretext of maladministration. Many people lost employment. Zamindars lost their lands. People had to pay higher land taxes. This created an atmosphere of rebellion in Awadh. The next cause was humiliation of the Mughal imperial glory. In 1849, it was decided that the Mughal successor to Bahadur Shah would have to shift from Red Fort to smaller quarters in Delhi's outskirts. In 1856, Lord Canning decided that the Mughals would lose the title of kings and be mere princes. So naturally, not only the Mughals but their loyal subjects were also angry over this humiliation by the Britishers. The next political cause was absentee sovereignty. What is absentee sovereignty? Any ruler has the responsibility of looking after its subjects. So if people have any problems, then they report it to the ruler to get justice. But since the local rulers were subjugated under the British, people didn't know whom to direct their grievances. They were being exploited by the British thousands of miles away from them. This is called as absentee sovereignty. This absence created a feeling of alienation among the masses, resulting in anger and hatred towards the Britishers. The next cause was the disbanding of Pindaris and irregular soldiers. Pindaris formed a large section among the army ranks of the British forces. But once they were disbanded, they had no means of livelihood. So they went on a looting spree across India. And their hatred for Britishers also resulted in their participation in the revolt. Lastly, the arrogance and social superiority portrayed by the British angered the common people. They could not accept the white Britishers as their rulers. On one hand, Britishers portrayed themselves as superiors, but on the other hand, the British army suffered losses in the Afghan War, Sikh Wars, and the Crimean Wars. This gave Indians confidence to think that the British army is not invincible, they can be defeated. All of these were the political causes that angered the Indian people. Now let's see the economic causes for discontent among the Indians. The East India Company was after all a trading company. The whole purpose of gaining Indian territory was to exploit this golden bird called India. The economic policies of the British completely destroyed the traditional economic fabric of India. How did they do that? They took raw materials from India and supplied it to the factories in Britain. The machine-made goods produced with the help of Indian raw materials were brought back and sold in India. So India was used for two things: for sourcing the raw materials and as a market for British-made goods. These machine-made goods were cheaper than the Indian handicrafts, so the demand for Indian handicrafts was reduced. What about the factories in India? The domestic factories in India suffered too. They were unable to sell their products in the foreign market because the Britishers imposed high import duties on Indian goods. And because the raw material was being exported to Britain, the prices of raw materials inflated. So the cost of production of Indian made goods increased, making it difficult to compete with the British made cheaper alternatives. Thus India's handicraft sector and the local industries were systematically destroyed. Now let's see what were the administrative causes for discontent among Indians. The company's administration was corrupt, inefficient, and biased against Indians. The police and the judicial systems were racist. The civil and military administration denied key positions to Indians and they were rarely promoted. The land revenue policy of the British was another cause of discontent. The company established direct links with the peasants. This angered the middlemen or the zamindars. Additionally, the agricultural policies of the company pushed for commercialization of agriculture. They forced the farmers to bring more land under the cultivation of commercial crops. The profit-seeking traders exploited the poor farmers by paying them less than the real value of their produce. Now let's see the military causes, that is discontent among the Indian sepoys serving in the EIC's army. First of all, why did Indians join their army? The Britishers lured Indians into their army by providing them jagirs and other rewards. So Indians, especially some of the poor classes who were historically denied opportunities to serve in the army, took this opportunity to gain some land and respect. But after few decades, working for the company was normalized, and so the company stopped giving the rewards. But more importantly, the British fellow army men treated Indian sepoys as inferiors. Sepoys were not allowed to wear their religious and caste symbols. Further, the Post Office Act of 1854 withdrew the free postage facility for soldiers. Now, during those times, there was a prevalent Hindu belief that overseas travel would deprive a person of his caste status. But the General Services Enlistment Act of 1856 made it compulsory to the sepoys to serve beyond the seas. This hurt the religious sentiment of Indian sepoys. Indian sepoys were treated badly, considered inferior, they were neither paid properly nor could easily avail promotions. Now let's see the social and religious causes. The social discrimination by the British and the spread of Christianity through missionary activities convinced the Indians that their religion and culture was under threat. British proclaimed themselves as civilized and modern, and Indian natives as backward and barbarians. According to the prevailing Hindu law, a person who converted to another religion could not inherit his ancestral property. But the Britishers allowed this by passing the Religious Disabilities Act 1850. Indians who converted to Christianity were offered easy promotions in the army. Due to all these reasons, any attempt at social and religious reform made by the British was seen by common Indians as a conspiracy to turn the entire country into Christianity. So even attempts to abolish sati, child marriage, widow remarriage were viewed with suspicion by Indians. All of these factors caused discontent, which resulted in a series of outbursts and then eventually into a massive revolt in 1857. Now, before the 1857 revolt, there were a series of smaller outbursts in the form of religious political violence, tribal movements, peasant riots, civil rebellions, etc. In the next video, we will see the smaller revolts that finally led to the 1857 uprising.